Hello and welcome to another edition of London Direct, where we're going to turn our attention to Egypt now, where the transition to democracy hasn't been a smooth one. Recently, during the 2-year anniversary of the fall of Hosni Mubbarak, scores died in widespread rioting. Now, Karim Abadir is a London-based academic and also a founding member of the Free Egyptian Party, one of the largest political parties in Egypt, and he's seriously concerned about the country's leadership. We're going to start by talking about Egypt. I know you've been heavily involved. You helped found the Free Egyptian Party and you drafted their economic policy. For a country like Egypt, where does the priority lie? Does it start with fostering free trade within the country, or is it helping the poorest parts of society?
There are lots of components to the policy. We have to take care of the macroeconomy, the economic policy at the aggregate level, whether it's the level of cutting the budget deficit, but at the same time not making sure that the poor are not penalized for that, and also in terms of interest rate setting and independence of the central bank, and then also at the micro level try to improve the workings of the economy and make it more efficient, but also make it a fairer society, because the poor have been forgotten by the previous regime, and it continues until today under the current regime.
I wonder what the average person on the street is concerned about. There's been a lot of unrest in recent weeks, recent months. Do you think the average person on the street is really concerned about the economy?
This is the main concern nowadays, along with the political security, or security in general in the country. Yes, definitely, and they want to be able to feed their kids. Now more than half of Egypt is below the poverty line. This is absolutely unheard of. Before it used to be a third when Mubarak was in charge. Now it's half the country. It's unsustainable.
So what about what's the priority of the politicians then?
The politicians have to first of all fix the economy, because it's in a free fall, and the currency reserves will allow it only 1 more month of imports. The Egyptian pound is overvalued. The central bank is defending it at an unsustainable rate, and it will have to manage its depreciation. But the problem is the prices will rise, because Egypt imports a lot of its necessities, like food. It imports the wheat that is subsidized by the government to feed the poorest section of society. Petrol, we have sold our share of petrol from now 8 years in advance, and so we have no petrol resources, oil resources. We have to import that or pay in foreign currency to be allowed to have some of the share that the foreign partners are digging out of the Egyptian soil.
What happens when a country runs out of foreign reserves? What's that going to mean for the average person?
Basically means that we're not able to import bread. There will be bread queues. When there's no bread in these queues, they're going to turn to whatever next shop is on the side and try to break into it and take things for themselves, and you cannot blame them. They're going to be starving. Same thing with fuel. There'll be queues on petrol stations, and you won't be able to get the economy moving or people moving.
We saw a state of emergency raised by the government recently on the second anniversary of the toppling of Mubarak. Those protests, are they a reflection of divisions within Egyptian society, or are they unhappy with the regime which has been installed?
If you want, you can call it a division within Egyptian society, but it's a minority that's trying to run the country for its own benefit, pitted against the rest of the country. So it's not really a division, it's a tiny minority that's trying to take everything for itself and doesn't want to power share, doesn't want to... In any country in the world, if a government fails so miserably in running the country, it would have the decency to resign. It hasn't.
But they've been elected by the people.
Which the government hasn't been elected, it's been chosen by the president. The president came as a result of that we had no choice. Basically, we were faced with a former regime or the Muslim Brotherhood, and a lot of people didn't vote. And in the first round, he actually got less than a quarter of the vote. So he's definitely not chosen by the majority of the Egyptians.
So where do we go from now? I mean, are these protests going to go on and on?
He has to be removed. That's the only solution. We have to have fresh elections, and the way he bulldozed the new constitution through is unacceptable. It robs people of freedoms. It allows marriage of 8-year-old kids, removes the rights of children. A girl, 8-year-old girl, is now going to be allowed to marry legally, and that's unacceptable in any country in the world. The minorities have some rights, but they're not equal rights. If you're not a Muslim, Christian or Jew, you have no rights whatsoever under the new constitution. But all these things are wrong.
And we were speaking beforehand, and you think this Friday could be a real flashpoint?
Yes, this Friday is almost make or break, really, because the country has been in a state of eruption, and I think this Friday, which is the public holiday, the usual holiday like the Sunday here, is going to witness a lot of crowds coming out and saying enough is enough.
I often ask this question in relation to many other topics, but 1 year from now, how do you think Egypt's going to look?
It depends. If we succeed, then 1 year from now we could be on the way to prosperity again, having a real democracy, having freedom of the press, which now they're trying to curtail. In the 6 months of Morsi, there have been 4 times as many lawsuits against the media and against journalists than in the 30 years of Mubbarak. Gives you an idea of how much they're trying to curb freedoms.
And just to finish off, Hillary Clinton, obviously the US is an important partner to any Egyptian leader. Hillary Clinton has stepped down from her post, will be taken over by John Kerry. Do you think that's going to have any implications for US policy towards Morsi in Egypt?
I think so, because John Kerry has been talking very differently from Hillary Clinton about Egypt. And John Kerry understands the subtleties, which unfortunately she didn't. She was fooled into thinking that the Muslim Brotherhood is the all-powerful organization that is going to be able to control Egypt and deliver benefits for the US, and any other group would not be able to do anything, and therefore not worth talking to. And she and they have been proved wrong. And John Kerry is probably reading the news and realizing actually the vast majority of Egyptians don't want this person in charge.
Well, Friday looks like it could be a key day for Egypt, and we'll continue to monitor the situation here on Dukascopy TV. But for now, goodbye.